the Weather Service in Raleigh with today's routine Monday briefing. Got a couple things to talk about here, so let's go ahead and jump right in with the upcoming weather pattern for the week. So today, in the upper left, you can see a big area of high pressure with a front and a low pressure system to our south. We are going to see a cold front move through the area today, and as a matter of fact, it's probably, at least as of the time of this recording at 11:30 on Monday, it's probably lined up roughly along US 64 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. Not a lot of precip associated with this front whatsoever. If anything, the biggest impacts will be how breezy it is out there now and will continue to be for the rest of the day. And you will also see a dramatically cooler day tomorrow as a result of this front moving through the area. So anyway, breezy today, mild, still temps in the 70s and 80s, but it will turn dramatically colder tomorrow on Tuesday. Because of that, we're going to see temperatures probably 20 to 25 degrees cooler tomorrow as compared to what we have today. And we'll go over some of those actual numbers here a couple slides from now. Pretty much quiet weather for this week. On the Wednesday slide, you'll see a little bit of precip. We have a glancing shot of some precip across the Sandhills and southern coastal plain during the day Wednesday, but really you'll be lucky if you get 1/100 of an inch. It's not going to amount to much really at all. We do have a stronger front, which is going to make a run at the area on Friday. And of course, before that front gets here, temps are going to warm back up into the 70s and even mid 80s in some spots. That front, though, there's still some uncertainty that we have to work out in terms of exactly when that front's going to come through, how much precip there's going to be. Is there going to be a severe weather concern or not? At this point, it doesn't look like there's going to be, but still a couple of things that we'll have to sort out before we get there. But one thing that is certain is it will turn dramatically cooler again behind that front. By the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, we'll again have temperatures probably 25 degrees cooler than they were on Friday. So let's dive into some of the finer details here. Let's talk about precip chances. What you'll see, the overarching theme of these images you see here is just not a lot, right? You see a lot of that first shade of green on the screen, 1/100 of an inch, maybe 1/10 of an inch if you're lucky. The highest amounts that you see on there actually occur on Friday. And gosh, those amounts aren't really much to write home about either. You see a couple of areas there between 1/10 and 1/4 of an inch, and that's associated with that cold front that's going to come through during the day on Friday. But again, there is not a whole lot of a signal here for widespread heavy rain. I know we've got drought across a good portion of the state, if not the majority of the state, if not the entirety of the state, and it just does not look like we're going to have much in the way of relief or widespread beneficial rainfall with any of these systems that are coming through. So bottom line, not a lot of precip forecast across the area over the next 5 to 7 days. Not surprisingly, no threat for flooding during that time period, Monday through Wednesday. When we do shift to the severe potential, you don't really see a lot on these series of maps either. That front coming through on Friday, there's no outlook for severe weather during that time period. Again, stay tuned. We'll see how things evolve a little bit, but at this point, it doesn't look like there's going to be much of a severe threat at all with that front on Friday. Let's jump back to today, though, because you do see that faint shade of green across the coastal plain, basically focused from I-95 eastward. That is going to be associated with today's frontal passage. But this is really isolated storms that we would see in these areas. And if anything, it looks like any storms that form would really be Fayetteville to Goldsboro and points east and south. It's not really looking like we're going to see much in the way of precip at all. But if anybody were to, it would be in those areas that you see in a shade of green. And anything that does occur, maybe a brief gust of winds, not a whole lot of precip, so very, very low end chances for severe weather. We're not expecting any severe. I really think we're going to struggle to even get any storms. So that's the only area that we're looking at here. I did want to throw this up here for completeness sake, because it is still warm in some areas today, especially across the south. We do have perhaps a minor level for heat risk across the area today. But you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, that is eliminated completely. We have no concerns about anything whatsoever, just given how cool it's going to be across the area. So really just today, and then that's it. Heat should be off the table, perhaps until we get to the end of the week, perhaps until we get to Friday. Let's talk about longer term temperature precip outlooks, the 8 to 14. There is a very strong signal from the guidance, 60 to 70% chances the temperatures are going to be above normal by the time we have this webinar next week. You can see, you know, we're into the third or fourth shade of orangish red colorings on the map. And conversely, there is a signal for near to slightly below normal precip chances during the week next week. So kind of sticking with that theme of drought being in place across the state. The precip maps I showed you before weren't really showing a lot. And these longer term outlooks for the 8 to 14 days would suggest that perhaps that drought is going to stick around for a while. Let's talk briefly about some of the hazards that we're going to see across the area. From the top down, you don't see much in the way of severe thunderstorms at all. Everything is grayed out up there. You have a little bit of lightning in there for today and a little bit of lightning on Friday. That is with today's front coming through, which again, I really don't think is going to be much at all. Friday, a little bit of a hedge, depending on what time of day that front comes through. Again, we have some details we're going to have to figure out with that. Wind is highlighted for today, again, ahead of today's front. It'll be a little bit breezy and gusty at times. That's why that's highlighted. And of course, fire weather down on the bottom, that's going to be the biggest impact today. Just given how dry it is and how potentially breezy it can be at times, fire weather is going to be the biggest concern. Other things I do want to highlight on this chart here, you'll see frost and freeze lit up for Tuesday, and you'll see it lit up for Saturday. Both of those days are the days that immediately follow cold frontal passages. So like I said, today it's warm out there, right? It's, you know, we're going to have temps in the 70s and 80s. Again, it's going to be dramatically colder tonight in some spots, especially across the northern coastal plain along the Virginia border. You could see temperatures in the mid 30s in some of those areas. So if you do happen to have sensitive vegetation, plants, anything outside already, you may want to take a couple of minutes to make sure that those are protected. We will be starting our frost freeze program up again next week, like we usually do every spring. But these two cold frontal passages will precede that. So just a bit of a heads up here that Tuesday morning and Saturday morning could be particularly chilly for those that have agricultural interests. I promised I'd show you some temperatures, and I do have those on the right side of the screen there. You can pick your nearby city from the list of the sites on the right. But you can see that overarching theme of warm today, dramatically colder tomorrow, and then we start to warm back up. By the time we get to Friday, we're back in the low to mid 80s, depending on where you're at, and then boom, right down again. We get back into the low to mid 50s behind that cold front. So temps warming up and then crashing back down, warming up and then crashing back down. Typical spring across the Carolinas. And again, the threat for severe weather does look to be very limited at this time, but we'll still have a little bit of things that we have to sort out with timing. You know, that's the biggest uncertainty. Will there be enough moisture to even produce thunderstorms to begin with? A lot of that stuff we'll have to still see how the guidance trends, but at least at this point, severe threat does appear to be limited. And of course, in the very short term today, the front moving through will result in breezy conditions. It's dry out there. So, you know, burning is strongly discouraged. There is an increased threat for fire danger across the area today.